Have you ever heard of a place where families gather to find husbands for their daughters? In the heart of Bulgaria, beneath the Balkan Mountains, a tradition called the Kalegi Gypsy Festival unfolds. To outsiders, it's often called the Bride Market, a name that sounds shocking, even wrong. But for the people of Stara Zagora, it's a celebration of heritage, a way to keep ancient customs alive. This year, however, the festival would welcome some very unexpected guests. They weren't tourists or journalists looking for a sensational story. They were overseas Filipino workers, engineers, welders, and nurses, a long way from home, their days filled with hard work and a quiet, lingering loneliness. Among them was Michael, a 34-year-old engineer from Cebu. He was a quiet man, carrying the weight of years spent working abroad, chasing a dream of stability for his family back home. When his Bulgarian colleague Stefan invited him to the festival, Michael was hesitant. A bride market? It sounds crazy. Stefan just laughed. It's not what you think, he explained. It's not about buying anyone. It's about meeting families, showing respect, and keeping old traditions alive. That spark of curiosity was all it took. Soon, Michael and two of his friends, June and Rico, found themselves in the middle of a vibrant, crowded marketplace. The air was thick with the smell of roasted meat and the sound of lively folk music. Young women in stunning floral dresses and sparkling gold jewelry mingled under tents, their families watching over them with a mix of pride and protection. The three Filipinos, with their warm smiles and gentle manners, stood out immediately. A local man approached them, a playful glint in his eye. "Are you here for a wife?" He joked in broken English. June laughed, shaking his head. No, we're just visitors. We want to understand your beautiful culture." But as the day unfolded, they started to realize they weren't just watching from the sidelines. The Bulgarian families, who were at first a bit cautious, quickly warmed up to them. The Filipinos' natural politeness and the respectful way they greeted the elders reminded the locals of a genuine humility that felt rare in today's world. For Michael, the scene was unexpectedly familiar. The laughter, the dancing, the shared food, it felt just like a fiesta back home in the Philippines, where community and generosity are everything. He realized that this sense of belonging was a universal language. And that's when he saw her. Elena, she was standing a little apart from the crowd, quiet and shy, clutching a small woven bag. Her clear blue eyes met his for just a fleeting moment, but it was enough to make him smile. Later, near the food stalls, he gathered his courage and approached her with the only Bulgarian words he knew. "Zdrave, kaksi?" he said, which means, "Hello, how are you?" She let out a soft laugh, surprised. "You speak Bulgarian?" Only that, he admitted with a grin, and ... "Blagodaria, thank you, right?" "Correct," she replied, her voice melodic. "You are not from here?" "Philippines," he said. A very long way away. There was a kindness in his voice that put her at ease. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was just genuinely curious and respectful. While young couples danced to the swelling music, Michael found himself talking to Elena's mother, Ivana. The idea of a foreign man at this traditional event was unusual, but she could sense his sincerity. He wasn't there to buy a bride. He was there to connect. Meanwhile, his friends were having their own surprising encounters. Jen was deep in conversation with a family of coppersmiths, learning that their daughter, Mira, was studying to be a nurse. And Rico, the group's joker, earned the nickname the helpful Filipino after he helped an elderly woman fix her market stall. As the festival lights began to dim, Michael and Elena found themselves walking along a quiet dirt road. He learned she was 24 and had studied business but couldn't find a job. Life in rural Bulgaria was a constant struggle between old traditions and modern dreams. "Many girls my age leave," she told him softly. "They go to Germany or the UK for work. They say there's nothing left for them here." Michael nodded, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. "It's the same for us," he replied. "We leave our homes to work abroad, sometimes for years at a time." In that moment, a powerful connection formed between them, built on a shared feeling of longing for purpose and a place to belong. They didn't need a lot of words. The quiet understanding between them spoke volumes. In the days that followed, the three Filipinos became local celebrities. Children would follow them, laughing at their Tagalog jokes, and families invited them into their homes for dinner, fascinated by their stories of the Philippines, the sunny beaches, the vibrant city life, and the unbreakable spirit of a people who always find a reason to smile. As Michael described his home in Cebu, the clear blue water and the sound of laughter, Echoing through his neighborhood, Elena listened with wide-eyed wonder. "It sounds so alive," she whispered. "Here, everything can feel so heavy. But you talk about your country with so much love." "Because even when life is hard," Michael explained, "we always have family. That's what keeps us going." By the end of the festival, their connection had deepened into something more than friendship. It was a bond rooted in mutual respect and genuine curiosity. Seeing her daughter's newfound happiness, Elena's mother turned to Michael and said, "If your intentions are true, our doors will always be open to you." What had started as a trip to a controversial festival was turning into a life-changing journey. In the weeks that followed, messages, photos, and video calls flew across continents. Michael sent clips of bustling jeepneys and colorful fiestas. Elena sent pictures of snow-covered Bulgarian streets. They were slowly, carefully bridging the gap between their two worlds. As their work contracts in Bulgaria neared their end, the three friends made a promise to each other. They would return to the Philippines, but this time, they wouldn't be going alone. They had found love in the most unexpected of places, and they were ready to bring it home. The road from Bulgaria to the Philippines would be long and filled with challenges. But for Michael and Elena, June and Mira, Enrico, and the new friends who had become like family, the journey had already begun. This story is a beautiful reminder that sometimes, the most profound connections are found where we least expect them, whispered not in grand declarations, but in shared kindness, quiet understanding, and the simple, universal language of the heart. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched you, please give it a like. And don't forget to follow our channel for more stories that connect us all. See you next time. Imagine leaving everything you know for love, trading snowy winters for tropical heat. That's exactly what Elena, Katya, and Mira did. When their plane landed in Manila, the air itself felt different, thick, warm, and alive with a chaotic energy that was strangely comforting. For these three Bulgarian wives, stepping into the Philippines was like stepping onto another planet. At the airport, the scents of roasted chestnuts and jet fuel filled the air. Joel, nervous but proud, handed his wife Elena a simple bouquet of Sampaguita flowers. "It's our national flower," he said. "Welcome to the Philippines." Elena smiled, shyly. "It smells beautiful." Nearby, Katya clung to her husband Mark's arm, overwhelmed by the humidity and the sea of people. Myra, with her husband Francis, blinked at the flashing lights and the sound of vendors, laughing children, and even a karaoke session just outside the terminal. In that moment, they knew. They were no longer in Europe. The real culture shock began when they arrived in their new homes. Elena moved with Joel to coastal Batangas. His mother, Aling Rosa, greeted her with a hug so warm and immediate it left Elena momentarily frozen. "Welcome, Haisha. You are family now." In Bulgaria, greetings were polite, but this was unfiltered affection, like being wrapped in sunlight. Katya settled with Mark in a bustling Quezon City neighborhood. That first evening, a neighbor handed her a bowl of pancit canton, saying, "You're the new Asawa, right? Eat more." She didn't understand the words, but the kind, welcoming tone was impossible to refuse. Myra's new home with Francis was a wooden house in Bohol, surrounded by palm trees and the constant poetic sound of the ocean. But the heat, the spicy food, and the mosquitoes were a challenge. What surprised her most, though, was the laughter, easy and constant, even in the middle of hard days. Of course, it wasn't always easy. Communication was a daily struggle. English was their shaky bridge, but when families spoke in Tagalog, the wives could only smile, unsure if they were being praised or playfully teased. One day, Elena felt her cheeks burn when Joel's family laughed after she made a mistake cooking rice. Later, Joel apologized. "It's okay," she told him. "In my country, people don't laugh this way. It's loud, but it feels alive." For Katya, the biggest battle was food. She missed bread and cheese. "If I eat rice one more time," she joked to Mark, "I'll start growing it out of my ears." He laughed, but that night he found a European bakery and brought her bread and butter. It was these small gestures that became their love language. For Mira, homesickness was the hardest part. During tearful calls home, she described the sunsets and the neighbors who kept giving her mangoes. Her mother wisely said, "Maybe the mangoes are like the people there, too sweet to hate." Slowly, life began to find its rhythm. Elena started helping at the local market, her accent charming the vendors. Soon, she was known as the pretty foreign wife who always smiles. Katya began teaching English to local children, who adored her patience and endless stories about snow. Myra, an artist, found her inspiration in the vibrant colors of the Philippines, painting the beaches and selling her work to tourists. They weren't losing themselves. They were expanding, growing into new versions of who they were. Their husbands, once just seen as lucky men, became true partners, bridges between two very different worlds. But love can't erase cultural differences. Elena couldn't understand when Joel gave a large part of his paycheck to his parents. "Family is everything here," he explained. "We take care of each other. In my country," she replied, "we take care of ourselves first." The next morning, there were no more words, only actions. He cooked her breakfast, and she helped him clean. They were learning that compromise wasn't about winning, but about understanding. Katya had a similar moment at a fiesta when relatives teased her for being too serious. Awkwardly, she joined them in dancing. At first, she felt clumsy, but then something broke open. She was laughing, clapping, and swaying, and she finally felt like she belonged. As months turned into a year, the Bulgarian wives began to understand what truly made Filipino life so different. It wasn't the climate or the food. It was something deeper. One day, Elena asked her mother-in-law why she always offered food to neighbors, even when they had little themselves. All in Rosa smiled. "Because someday, when we have nothing, someone will feed us too." That simple sentence was a revelation. In a world where everyone was fighting for themselves, Filipinos were fighting for each other. And that, Elena realized, was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Today, their lives are a beautiful blend of two cultures. Elena and Joel run a cafe serving both Filipino adobo and Bulgarian banitsa. Katya and Mark vlog about their cross-cultural life, sharing their humor and love with thousands of followers. Myra and Francis have an art studio by the sea, their laughter echoing across the waves. Their stories prove that even when worlds apart, hearts can find common ground in laughter, in kindness, and in the quiet beauty of finding home in the most unexpected of places. Thank you so much for watching. If their story touched your heart, please give this video a like and subscribe for more stories that connect our world. See you next time. The sun was rising over the quiet Philippine sky, painting the clouds with shades of pink and gold. It had been nearly 2 years since Elena, Katya, and Mira arrived in the country that would change their lives forever. What started as a curious union between two distant cultures had now become something more, something deeply human. But like every story worth telling, theirs was not without its trials. That year was marked by one of the strongest typhoons to ever hit the Philippines, Typhoon March. For days, the country was drenched in rain and anxiety. Winds tore through villages, power lines fell, and the ocean raged against the shore. In Batangas, Elena and Joel's cafe stood right by the beach. As the storm approached, the waves grew higher, crashing violently against the walls. Joel nailed wooden boards over the windows while Elena packed what they could save: flour, coffee beans, and the framed photo of their wedding. "Are you scared?" Joel asked, wiping sweat from his brow. Elena nodded, trembling. "In Bulgaria, we have snowstorms. But this feels alive, like the sky is angry." Joel took her hand. "The Philippines has storms, but we also have faith. We'll be fine, Mahal." As the winds howled, they huddled together with his family, candles flickering in the dark. The roof leaked, the windows rattled, but no one complained. For the first time, Elena didn't feel like a guest. She felt like part of something greater, a circle of warmth fighting against the cold cruelty of nature. In Quezon City, Katya and Mark weren't spared either. The city flooded knee-deep, and power outages stretched for days. Katya watched as Mark and his neighbors helped one another, passing sandbags, sharing food, making sure everyone was safe. Despite the chaos, people laughed, joked, and even sang in the dark. "You Filipinos," Katya said, shaking her head. "Even when the world is falling apart, you still find time to smile." Mark grinned. "If we don't smile, the rain wins." She smiled back, realizing that was the secret. Filipinos didn't fight storms with strength. They fought them with heart. Down in Bohol, Myra and Francis faced the sea's fury head-on. Their art studio was damaged, their roof partly torn. But instead of despair, the next morning Francis joined his neighbors rebuilding homes. Myra cooked for the volunteers, feeding anyone who needed a meal. When a foreign journalist came to document the aftermath, Myra spoke in her calm, accented English. "Back home, I thought Filipino hospitality was just for show. But now I see it's not fake. It's what keeps this country alive." Her words went viral, touching millions who saw in her a reflection of their own struggles and pride. After the storm, the couples found themselves changed. Elena's cafe, though damaged, reopened weeks later. They rebranded it with a new name, Bagong Simula, meaning new beginning. It became a symbol of hope, a place where locals and foreigners shared stories over steaming coffee. Elena baked Bulgarian pastries while Joel brewed local Barako coffee. Together, their mix of flavors told the story of their love. Katya, inspired by what she'd seen, started a small online fundraiser to help flooded families. Her Bulgarian relatives donated, amazed by the Filipino resilience she described. "They smile even when they have nothing," she told them in a heartfelt video. Maybe that's the richest kind of life. Meanwhile, Myra and Francis turned their rebuilt art studio into a gallery that featured both Filipino and Bulgarian cultural art. They named it Two Suns because, as Mira explained, no matter where we are, the same sun touches both our homes. Their art paintings of typhoons, families, and laughter became known for capturing the soul of Filipino strength. But even after years, adaptation was not without friction. Elena sometimes missed the orderliness of Sofia, the punctuality, the structure, the quiet. The Philippines, in contrast, was chaos made charming. Jeepneys honked, roosters crowed before dawn, and time seemed to bend around emotion rather than logic. Yet, when she saw how her husband's family gathered for every small occasion, birthdays, baptisms, even random Sundays, she realized that maybe order wasn't everything. Sometimes love thrives in the unplanned. Katya struggled with homesickness. She missed the cold, the snow, the taste of her mother's soup. But one day, Mark's family surprised her with a Bulgarian night celebration, complete with printed flags, music from YouTube, and adobo cooked without rice. She broke down in tears. "They don't even know my culture," she said later, laughing through her sobs, but they tried. That's love. Myra had her own challenge starting a family. After months of trying and a few heartbreaks, she and Francis learned she couldn't conceive naturally. The news crushed her. She sat by the sea for hours, painting waves in shades of gray. When she finally told Francis, he just held her hand and said, "Then we'll love the world as our child." And that's what they did, mentoring young local artists, funding community workshops, and giving hope to others. Years later, all three women gathered once again, this time at Elena and Joel's cafe by the sea. The sunset painted the sky orange as they sat, sipping calamansi juice and reminiscing. "It's funny," Katya said, smiling. "We came here thinking we were the ones rescuing them, but I think they rescued us." Myra nodded. "In Bulgaria, I had comfort, but I didn't have community. Here, even strangers make you feel you belong." Elena smiled softly, looking at the horizon. "I see now, it was fate's odd way of introducing us to a country that teaches love differently." The sea breeze carried laughter from the nearby shore. It was messy, it was noisy, but it was real. That's what home meant now. As the years rolled on, their stories became small legends. Elena and Joel's cafe grew famous as the cafe built by love. Katya became a local advocate for cross-cultural marriages, always ending her talks the same way. "Don't look for a perfect partner. Look for someone willing to understand your world and let you understand theirs." Myra's art gained international recognition. When asked what inspired her most, she said, "It's not the sea. It's not the storms. It's the people who survive them with smiles." Years later, the Bulgarian women reunited for the 10th anniversary of their arrival in the Philippines. They decided to visit the Young Wives for Sale Festival in Bulgaria, again not as participants, but as storytellers. A reporter recognized them and asked, "Do you regret what happened?" Elena smiled, holding her husband's hand. "How could I regret the path that led me home?" Katya laughed. "They said Filipino hospitality was fake, but I found it more real than anything I've ever known." And Myra simply said, "The Philippines didn't just give me a husband. It gave me a second life." As the film crew packed up, the three couples sat under the Bulgarian sky, half a world away from the islands they now called home. Elena looked up at the stars and whispered, "The same stars shine over the Philippines tonight." Joel squeezed her hand. "And they shine brighter when we remember where love began." Back in the Philippines, their cafe lights glowed by the sea. Katya's advocacy continued to grow, and Myra's art hung in schools and museums. They weren't just stories of marriage anymore. They were living bridges between two distant worlds, a reminder that love, in its truest form, needs no translation. Because sometimes the most unexpected journeys don't take you across the world. They take you home. Thanks for watching our story. If it moved you, please give this video a like. and subscribe to our channel for more stories that connect us all. See you next time!